Hello friend, welcome back to my channel, or welcome if you're new here. My name is Susie, and in this video I'm going to be sharing with you some of the mistakes that I made when it comes to hand lettering with Tombow brush pens. Like you may have done, I purchased a Tombow dual brush pen thinking that it was going to kind of immediately make my hand lettering look amazing, because that's what I saw all of these amazing calligraphers using. Well, it didn't quite work out that way, and there was a bit of a learning curve to get to a point where I felt comfortable with the Tombow. But after lots of trial and error, and probably some frayed brush pens along the way, I thought that I'd share with you some of the mistakes that I made in hopes that you can skip over some of these common issues when you start hand lettering using your Tombow dual brush pens. So the first mistake that I want to talk about is the mistake of starting with words. What I mean by this is I kind of jumped in with a brush pen expecting to be able to create the kind of lettering that was in my head right away. But what I found is that when I was using a brush pen, it's actually super helpful to just start with the basics. So that might mean starting with practicing your individual letters one at a time before you even start to hand letter entire words or phrases. But it also might mean that we back up even further and start with simple hand lettering strokes. These strokes help to make up our letters and also can help us to get a feel for how to use this new brush pen. So if you're struggling with your Tombow dual brush pen, first of all, you're not alone. And second of all, I'd suggest going back to the basics of hand lettering drills and really getting the feel for this style of a brush pen. I do have a free hand lettering course that starts with the basics, and it does include some printable worksheets that can be used with your Tombow dual brush pens. I will link that in the description box below if you'd like to join, or you can find it at howtohandletter.com/mini-course. The second mistake that I want to talk about is using the wrong kind of paper at the wrong time. So Tombow brush pens can fray over time, which can be normal, but in the beginning I was just using regular printer paper, and it was actually pretty textured compared to other types of paper that I've since found. So when it comes to fraying, it seemed like it was happening super quickly. Then I found out about other types of paper, and some were made specifically for markers, like marker paper, and then there was also just a higher quality printer paper that was also really smooth. Now at first this was kind of about fraying brush pens, but once I tried the smooth paper, I just couldn't go back to my regular copy paper. I don't really know how to explain it, but smooth paper just makes hand lettering with a brush pen feel nicer. There are several different types of paper that you can try, but Kanzen and Rhodia both make a nice paper. However, I personally like to use HP Premium 32 paper. It's nice and smooth, but super affordable. Now, this isn't to say that you can't ever use your brush pens on a textured paper. In fact, Tombow brush pens can be used to create a watercolor look when you use them with watercolor paper and then add water over the top like I'm doing here. I simply just prefer to wait until a brush pen is a little bit more worn down to use it in this way. Then I can save my fresh, crisp brush pens for hand lettering on smoother paper. Mistake number 3 is actually one that I don't remember as well in my own hand lettering, but it's something that I think a lot of beginners struggle with, and it's kind of one of those things that you don't know until you know, so for that reason, I didn't want to leave it out. It might feel wrong to push super hard on your brush pen, especially an expensive one, because you might feel like you're going to ruin it. But these brush pens are flexible and they have a great bounce, so don't be scared to press down firmly on your brush pen when you are doing those downstrokes. I think if you've watched a brush pen tutorial, you likely know that you need to apply more pressure on your downstrokes and less pressure on your upstrokes. But just how much pressure isn't really talked about very often. And a bit of this is a personal preference. You can see in these examples, I'm getting thick and thin strokes with both, but they both give me a really different look. And that's simply because I'm pressing down a lot more firmly in the bottom example. And neither way is right or wrong. But if you felt like you're going to hurt your Tombow brush pen by applying pressure to those downstrokes, you might be surprised just how well they hold up. And mistake number 4 is expecting to get hairline upstrokes. I talked a little bit about my big Tombow expectations at the beginning, and while I quickly found out that it wasn't going to be as easy as I thought, this lesson about upstrokes might have taken me a little bit longer. But here's the thing. A Tombow brush pen has a pretty large brush tip, and it's reasonable to think that you might have a little bit thicker of an upstroke than something super small like a Pentel Touch. So don't be disappointed if you aren't able to achieve hairline upstrokes. You can see in my examples with the Tombow that the first set of letters has thinner upstrokes than the second, but neither is right or wrong. In fact, I kind of prefer the second option with slightly thicker upstrokes. It just kind of stands out and looks bold to me. So I guess my point is just don't feel bad if your upstrokes aren't super thin. This does not have to be the goal. I would just try to work on getting a variation between your up and down strokes, even if it's just a slight variation. Over time, you'll probably start to develop your own style, and that may look different than what you were originally trying for anyway. So I hope that this helps you to take out some of the frustration when it comes to lettering with a new type of brush pen. I actually have several videos about hand lettering with Tombow dual brush pens, so I will link that playlist here for you if you'd like to watch more. And don't forget to check out my free hand lettering course if you haven't already. You can find that at howtohandletter.com/mini-course. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you in my next video.